I'm Natalie Kenway, Global Head of ESG Insights at ESG Clarity. Welcome to the Green Dream video series. Today, I'm speaking to Francois Millet, Head of ETF Strategy, ESG and Innovation at Lyxor Asset Management. Thank you so much for joining me today, Francois.
Thank you, Natalie, for inviting us to share our views on this interesting topic.
Fantastic. Well, first of all, can you give us an overview of the ESG ETFs offered by Lyxor?
Yeah, so Lyxor started to propose to the market ESG ETFs quite a long time ago in 2007, when we first launched a water ETF, then a new energy ETF. At that time, no one was talking about ESG orientation of the funds. But actually, the investment objective was really to capture companies involved in water treatment, utilities, and also in energy. It was clean energy, distributed energy, and renewable energy. So these are totally topical investment themes today, which totally fit into the ESG category, having in mind that we have additionally added exclusion policies. So we started quite a long time ago. So today we have something like 3.4 billion euros in ESG ETFs at Lyxor. I'm not counting the new climate ETF, which we have launched less than a year ago, where we have an additional 1 billion. So with that, that would be more something like 4.4 billion. So I'm counting there all our ESG thematic products like water, energy, where we have 2 billion euros, but also the gender equality ETF, our green bond ETF, where we are still the largest in the world with 600 million in our green bond products. And also the new, I would say, more technology-oriented ESG ETFs like future mobility or smart cities, where we started quite recently to propose these new investment themes, which are also contributing to some of the sustainable development goals, where we have also raised already more than 200 million in this one. So it's a quite comprehensive range today, essentially focused on thematic ESG ETF, some broad-based ESG ETF, which are using best-in-class strategies based on ESG ratings, and also the conversion of fixed income corporate bond ETFs into ESG index equivalents, which has been quite recent. It took place since the second half of last year.
Great. Well, it sounds like lots of areas are covered there. We're on ESG Clarity, we've been covering a number of ESG ETFs being launched, and especially recently, there seems to be a real pickup in the amount that are coming to the market. How do you compete at Lyxor with so many products out there?
Yes, you're right. In 2020 was the year where ESG really went out from well, just being a trend to being a world transformation of the market, because in 2020 in the European ETF landscape, ESG ETFs captured some 51% of the net new assets, of the net inflows. This year, since the 1st of January, it's 55% of the inflows. So it's a total transformation of the market, of course. Well, at Lyxor, we had a lot of success recently in collecting new assets, especially in the area of the climate benchmarks, which are the new areas which have been developing in the ESG market space, having in mind that you can consider that the market is split between broad ESG strategies, thematic ESG strategies, fixed income strategies, and now climate aligned strategies, which are different from the thematic ones. And we essentially collected new assets this year in the Paris aligned benchmark, which are aiming to align your portfolios with the temperature targets of the Paris Agreement, and in our new energy ETF, which is now worth 1.1 billion euros. And we are competing by the fact that we are extremely innovative in that space. So I mentioned the very old water and new energy product, but we are the first to propose green bond ETF in 2017. It's still the largest worldwide ETF in green bonds. We were also the first to launch a gender equality ETF in Europe in 2017 as well. We were the first to start a whole ecosystem of climate benchmark aligned with the European regulation, climate transition benchmarks and Paris aligned benchmarks. That was in the middle of last year. So actually quite innovative in a number of areas. For broad ESG products as well, we differentiate by the fact that in our broad ESG products, we are using also as an indicator the ESG momentum of the companies, which is the improvement of their score and not only their static scoring, so which is a more dynamic approach. So we have a number of characteristics which make us differentiated from many products in the market. And most recently, we decided to reinforce the exclusion policies of our broad ESG products, whereby the traditional exclusions like, controversial weapons, alignment with the Global Compact were not enough. And we decided to go one step beyond in terms of exclusion policy. So for the same level of, I would say, ESG intensity for the best-in-class selection, we tend to have a more stringent approach of the exclusion policies with a broader scope of exclusion than most of the market today.
Great. And Lyxor recently created a structure to assess the temperature of more than 150 of its ETF products. This will provide investors with greater insights on the impact of their portfolios on global warming and also help asset owners meet targets set by the Paris Agreement. What have you found with that new structure?
Yes, so if we look at the way these temperature aligned portfolios are constructed, more and more investors are looking for simple and consensual objectives for their funds. The idea with ESG is that there are probably too many ways of building an ESG global score. While when you are looking at climate alignment, you have a simple objective, which is making sure that your investment portfolio is aligned with a certain target in terms of a budget of CO2 emissions, like the net zero budget for 2050, which is the target of so many investors today and many states as well, like the European Union or the UK, or aligned with the temperature target, which is an even simpler and even more consensual objective than the different shades of the ESG rating that you can build. So the difficulty was effectively to transform an ESG process into a portfolio which is aligned with a temperature target. And for that purpose, we had to call upon the skills of data providers which are very advanced in this area, like, for example, Trucost, which is now part of the S&P group and advising many large asset owners for temperature assessment of their portfolios. And the idea is that we would be building portfolios now by selecting and reweighting stocks in function of their contribution to a global decarbonization target, and not only anymore in terms of global ESG rating, or even in terms of carbon intensity, because carbon intensity is backward looking. It's a risk assessment approach. It's turned towards measuring in a selfish way your transition risk, while now you need to go one step beyond and look after contributing to the transition through the leverage you have as an equity investor. So contributing to the decrease in the global greenhouse gas emissions by selecting the right stocks and aggressively reallocate your portfolio towards the companies which are more successful in their pathway to decarbonization. So that was the concept of these new portfolios aligned with temperature targets.
Great, thank you for sharing that. So where have flows recently been focused on in the ESG ETF space? Which trends can you identify? And all of these aren't likely to continue?
Yeah, well, the transformation, which is in part a rotation from traditional core equity holdings to ESG equivalents, will more go towards broad-based ESG strategies. And that's a process which is continuing, and it will continue. But what's new is interesting is the appetite of wealth managers, private banks, advisors, and retail investors ultimately for the narrative around thematic ETFs, because it's really resonating to their clientele. So we see a lot of interest for ETFs which are extremely focused instead of relying on a more complex and technical global ESG rating, like ETFs, which are capturing exposure to the clean energy, new energy, to smart mobility. So we see really flows going to these kind of products. For example, in our new energy ETF, again, since the beginning of the year, we have collected an additional 200 million euros of new assets after a very strong inflows last year. So these trends are continuing, and I am expecting this appetite for thematic products to go on, because also investors are discovering that the traditional market beta, so the parent index, the market cap weighted index, is failing to capture some long-term mega trends. And if you want really to skew your portfolio in order to be orientated more towards these long-term mega trends, you have to introduce a bit more of thematic exposure in your portfolios, and not only screen your portfolios by global ESG ratings, for example.
Okay, fantastic. It sounds like you'll be kept very busy then. Looking across the overall ESG ETF landscape, where do you think it will evolve from here? What will it look like in 5 years' time?
Well, what I can say is that it will not take 10 years before it becomes a new normal, because looking at the speed it goes right now, just again, 55% of the net inflows since the beginning of the year are going to ESG products in all areas, equity, fixed income. So in 5 years' time, we can expect that it will not yet be the new normal, because it will take some time, but the transformation is really accelerating. It took a lot of people by surprise. Actually, even the COVID crisis reinforced this appetite for migrating your assets towards ESG strategies quicker. So in 5 years' time, I would expect that a lot of core portfolio holdings for the strategic stable allocations will have migrated to broad-based ESG strategies with different level of ESG intensities, like best-in-class strategies capturing the top 25% or the top 50% in each sectors, with exclusion policies that will have a tendency to be stricter than what they have been until now. And on top of that, there will be diversification around the market, strategic long-term portfolio allocation using thematic ones. And there will be a global willingness to align the portfolio with climate objectives, which are different angle than just screening on ESG rating or capturing a specific investment theme. And for that, if I'm relying on the movement we are seeing from tier one investors who are now transforming their policy benchmark, the official strategic asset allocation benchmark, towards climate aligned benchmark, it's very encouraging. So I think that in 5 years' time, a lot of these core holdings will be moved to global ESG or climate aligned portfolios, and the progression of the thematic ones as diversifications will be very strong as well.
Okay, great. Well, it sounds like there's plenty to keep us both busy. Finally, we always end the Green Dream on this question. What is your favorite sustainable drink or snack?
Okay, so my sustainable drink, I like what you call it in English, pomegranate juice, especially where is no added sugar. I like its bitterness, actually. That's something I like very much. And for snacks, as I know, it's another issue. I like very much courgette fritters. I don't know in English if it's the right word, because I think that there are plenty shades of taste for courgettes according to the way you are cooking them, and I like very much this.
Great, they sound really good too. Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. It's really interesting speaking to you.
You're welcome. That was a pleasure.